Good, happy Tuesday evening, everyone. This is Cheryl. Are you living the moment or are you stuck in the past? Do you find yourself on autopilot, not really aware of what's going on around you? Is change happening and you don't want it or you're not ready for it? Well, good evening, everyone. Again, this is Cheryl. I'm here with Kenny Brixey, and we are really excited about tonight's show. Kenny, how's it going in Texas?
We're finally drying out a little bit for the meantime, but other than that, it's going really well.
And your internet's up, so we've got a clear connection tonight, no problem, right?
Yes, I'm not going to be having to fight things behind the scenes tonight, I hope. So that's really good. Before we get into our wonderful guest tonight, though, just wanted to remind everybody of our telephone lines. We do have open lines tonight, so if you would like to call in with a question for our guest or Cheryl or myself, please do. That number is 248-809-3474. That's 248-809-3474. Or if you're shy and don't want to talk on the radio, you can email us at simplesteps@me.com. That's simplesteps@me.com. Before we get to introducing our guest, I want to send out our warmest thank yous and gratitude to Brent Carey. He is just awesome. We are so grateful that he has provided this medium for us to present a positive message to everyone. We also want to thank Steve Klein, who is running the board for us tonight. He's going to make us sound good and keep us in line. And then Bob Wittershine, who's just hanging out back there having a good old time, I hope. With that, though, I'm going to turn it back over to Cheryl and let her tell you a little bit about our wonderful guest.
Well, thanks, Kenny. We're so excited to introduce you to tonight's guest, which is Dr. Julie Krull. And for those of you that are on Facebook often, and if you're on the Simple Steps site, boy, I can't say that quickly tonight, Dr. Julie on Your Beautiful Mindful Life is her page. So we're thrilled to bring her to our radio show tonight. Julie has a PhD in counseling psychology. She's extensively studied Buddhist psychology, energy and meditative practice, holistic health, mind and body medicine. She's a coach, a spiritual teacher and a healer, a conscious living advocate, and a visionary. And that's just dusting the surface of everything that Julie is involved in and her calling. But the heart and soul of Julie Krull is a passionate change agent who helps so many live through the now with mindfulness. She advocates waking up by living in the present. Now, I could go on and on about Julie, and I will tell you that to talk to her is just to be fascinated and enamored by the entire thought process. So I am just thrilled to death to have her with you. So, Julie, welcome to our show.
Well, thank you. That was a lovely introduction. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, Julie, we're so happy that you are here. I just wanted to kick things off and give you a chance to tell our audience just a little bit about your background that Cheryl may not have covered, and what led you to the path of conscious living that you were on.
Wow, that's a great question. Where to start there? I could start with 40-some years, but I'll try a little more recent. I've just been in the helping field for 25 years now as a mental health practitioner and studying different psychospiritual practices and techniques and philosophy, and just have been on this journey myself while trying to help people. I know that having a license to practice counseling psychology is a wonderful thing, but I found it very limiting for me. I find that traditional psychotherapy and psychology is not keeping up with some amazing new breakthroughs in consciousness studies and some other things. So I've been studying and on this path for quite a while, and just most recently really looking at how our world is changing and how our human psyche is trying to adapt to that. And, there's so many exciting, wonderful, amazing things happening, but a lot of people are in fear and crisis. And so that's where I am. I just have been really focused on how to help people with that transition and change and through life coaching or healing or whatever that modality may be.
Mm-hmm. Well, fabulous. Well, Julie, last year you and Cheryl Fronglass hit the road with the Let It Shine road trip. Can you just tell our audience a little bit about how you came to take that trip in the first place and what you learned along the way?
Sure, I'd love to. I'm smiling as you say that our little Let It Shine road trip. I met Cheryl via the Facebook. Actually, we took a course together and then started getting to know each other through Facebook and then started talking. And it was evident when we met in person last January 2011 that we were meant to work together. We complement each other so well. So in our discussions, we continued to talk about the leading edge of change, what's happening, where we're at, where we're going, and what's happening. And so that one topic just intrigued us of what are people doing through this change? We have so many amazing women leaders stepping up to lead in a new feminine model, and that intrigued us. And then the other part of it was we had so many amazing Facebook friends, and we thought, what would it be like to do a face-to-face Facebook road trip so we could meet some of these friends? And that's exactly what we did. We had so many friends that were holding events and doing things all across our country. And so we designed a road trip, and we took off from the middle of the country and just crisscrossed it and went to different women's events that were happening, videotaped interviews with women who are doing amazing things in their communities, met lots of amazing people. We stayed in friends' homes the entire time.
Wow.
We hit the road in my little Prius, packed with a couple bags, and we each had one big suitcase. That was it. And literally, people just opened their doors to us. They were excited to host events. It was amazing. They wanted to be a part of it. They were generous enough to allow us to interview them on videotape, and it was amazing. We didn't pay for a hotel.
That's super. What were some of the things that you were hearing from people that they were going through, that they were asking about? You talk about the change and the leading edge of change. What were you hearing while you were out there that normal people were asking about?
Well, a couple things come to mind when I think about the women that we met. For the most part, we've met amazing evolutionary women who really get what's happening in the world and want to bring themselves fully into it. Just really be who they are to the fullest extent and lead from a place of that feminine, nurturing, receptive place that's collaborative. So we really heard a lot of that. And every once in a while we would hear, people who are frustrated or scared or, what do we do? Everything's breaking down. Things aren't working the way they used to work. How do we move forward? And we just began to really build some collaborative relationships. And really, since we've left, we started in May and went through the fall. And in some of the cities that we were in, the women who gathered are still gathering, which is really nice. That is so exciting to know that they created a community of people who they relate to and just want to collaborate with as they go through the changes.
That's cool. Do you still have contact with them?
Yeah, many of them, absolutely. Yes, we have. The people who open their doors to us were so generous and amazing, and we created this network. So, yeah, we have this network clear across the country, and of course, new Facebook friends from that trip, and just lots of different collaborative relationships that are going on. But yeah, some really special people.
What are you finding? Sorry, what are you finding as you've stayed in touch with these? the folks that you met along the trip and the new folks that have joined your page. I mean, you've got a fabulous page, and I know between you and Cheryl, I mean, you've got well over 11,000 people right now. What are you finding as you're staying in touch with these folks? What's the top thing on their mind?
It's kind of interesting. I don't know how to answer that question, but what comes to my mind when you ask that is people are either awake and ready for more, like, okay, what's happening in our world and how are we evolving? Or other people really are feeling it and wanting it. You just you'll get posts. I like to post on my page from a place that maybe inspires people to think a little outside of the box and to keep expanding themselves and how they see themselves in the world. And so I will definitely see people who are right there with me going, yes, 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 give us more. We love this. Or people going, just today I had one, can you just elaborate on this just a little bit more? I think I get it, but will you help a little bit more? So, there's so much going on in our world. There's so much happening, and the systems that supported us for, centuries are breaking down, and, there's just so much going on. So I think trying to provide that calm presence and teaching people how to be in that place of, like you said earlier, the now is just an important part of that.
Well, you do advocate being in the present moment and being mindful. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges that you see of staying there and not living in the present, and how do you assist people in getting back?
Yeah, I'd love to. Mindfulness is just a present moment awareness, and a lot of people will think it's mindfulness meditation. There is mindfulness meditation, but a mindful practice and mindfulness is really about tuning into the present moment. And, we can do that in one way of really connecting with our senses. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I feel? What do I taste? We can do that and really bring us to the present moment. But even more important is to really tune into the body and the wisdom that we hold within the body and our intuition. And so this mindfulness creates incredible power in our lives because it's the center of our guidance system. As we have our own internal GPS, when we learn how to quiet the mind, we hear the soul speak. And so this internal guidance system is really powerful, and it's the source of creativity and all amazing things, inner peace and wisdom, and I can't say enough about it. One way that I like to teach that, a simple way of looking at it, is our Western mind is so addicted to analyzing things, figuring it out, going to the past, going to the future, worrying, thinking, and a lot of times that going to the past or going to the future creates this dissonance, this incoherence inside of us. And so one of the techniques I like to share comes from the Heart Math Institute, and they've been doing research for 30 years now on the heart, and they have medical doctors and psychologists and a lot of professionals on their team, and they said, what is this heart that we keep saying has these emotions? Is it the same thing? Is it just an organ that pumps blood? Or is it something more with these emotions? We have a broken heart, or we love from the heart, and we have our spiritual center in the heart. They wanted to know, why do we keep doing that? And so they started doing research, and they've done some fascinating things. I won't get into all of it, but they really discovered that we have this incredible magnetic field in the heart center. And it's even more powerful than the brain when we're talking about the electromagnetic field, which is fascinating to me. But one technique that comes from their research is this quick coherence technique. And they've learned that when they teach people how to be in heart coherence, the heart will beat at a really regular heartbeat. And in that regular heartbeat, they find qualities of peacefulness, of joy, of love. And so this regular heartbeat's really important. So when they start hooking people up with the EKGs, then they started hooking them up with the EEGs and found that when people can go into this heart coherence with this very regular heartbeat, can you tell my voice is doing this? Like this regular heartbeat, they found that the mind will still itself and quiet down and go into resonance with this heart. And they work in tandem. And then they can measure it like if the three of us were sitting in a room and I went into this heart coherence and you two were hooked up to a heart monitor, your hearts would more than likely go into coherence with mine, and we would all be in this regular heartbeat and this amazing energy happening. So isn't that amazing?
Yes, that is.
Yeah. So the quick coherence technique is a really, you guys love simple steps. This is
yes,
an amazing way. Yes, I do too. You know, we teach meditation in our Western world, and, you know, the Eastern traditions are really strong there, and the Western mind has had to really practice a lot, and still people get really frustrated, and they can't quiet the mind, and, you know, we're busy, and we're multitasking, and we're doers, and really this quick coherence technique can be done 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes at a time, and you could do it 20 times during the day instead of trying to sit still for 20 minutes. And so it's a 3-step process. You want me to teach it?
Love to.
Very simple. Okay, you guys can do it with me. The first step is to just bring your attention to the heart. That's it. Simply bring all of your attention into your heart area. Sometimes it's helpful to put your hand on your heart or both hands on your heart and just really try to tune into the heart in that center space of your chest. Step 1. Step 2 is you begin to breathe in and out through your heart. So literally, every breath that goes in, you feel it coming in through the heart, and every exhale, you feel it going out through the heart. Isn't that nice?
Mm-hmm.
And then the third step, which is the most important step, is they ask you to visualize a picture or a memory that you have of a time when you felt joyful or felt serene and peaceful. I'll give you an example. We have a new lake home. It's just this tiny little cabin, and it's tucked away not on the place on the lake that I wanted. I wanted the place on the east so I could see over the huge lake and see the sunset, and we settled for a cabin that's kind of tucked away in a funny place. And we stayed overnight in our cabin after we'd been working on it for months, and finally stayed overnight, got up in the morning to have coffee and sat down at the table inside because it's still cold here. And we sat at the table, and literally the sunrise was coming in one of our windows as we sat there. And we could see the full view of the whole sunrise.
Oh,
and
how wonderful.
It was wonderful. It was amazing. And it was so expansive, and I was so joyful, and it was so amazing. And that feeling is the kind of memory or picture that you want to recall, a time in your life when you can feel that feeling. So, like, that's my new one. I can go to that moment and remember that surprise sunrise and feel all those feelings. So that third step, you bring that into your body and you literally feel that feeling as if it's happening again. Now, it does a couple things. One, that feeling really concretizes that in our bodies so that we're feeling that heart coherence. Okay, so you've put your attention into the heart, you're breathing in through the heart and out through the heart, and then you feel that feeling, you recall that. The second thing that it does, which is fascinating, is that when we're in heart coherence with these emotions, we're not in anger or anxiety or worry or fear or all of this impatience or, we're not in incoherence because we've now achieved that. And so what it does is it helps the body remember that feeling so we can go back there faster, and we can prevent us from really getting off and, worrying about the future, stressing about the past, doing all those things that we've become so accustomed to doing well.
Yeah, you had talked earlier about your intuition and people having intuitive state. Is this a way to tap into that intuition, or at least to calm yourself down enough? I mean, how do these two tie in together?
Good. Kenny, you're so intuitive. I love it. Yes, that's one of the things.
Cool, I did it.
Isn't that cool? You did. Yes, the research shows that when people, so when I'm in heart coherence, my brain, I'm in heart-brain coherence, when we talked about those EEGs coming in sync with the heart, they found that when people are in that state, they are more intuitive, they're in touch with that still small voice, and yeah, definitely. You're good, Kenny.
Well, okay. Well, tell us a little bit more about that still small voice, because I know there's a lot of people who will say, I've never heard that.
Well, we all have an inner guidance system if we can be quiet. Our brain and our thinking mind is not that still small voice, and we're good thinkers in our country. I think we've learned how to overanalyze everything. But really, that guidance, the thing that's exciting about what I see happening in the literature and in people that are writing and doing research and speaking around the country right now is that some people will say, well, that's my guardian angel, or some people will have their deity, their God, whether it, whomever that may be for them. Some people will say, I can hear the voice of my mom saying blah, 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 or, we have this whole myriad of external voices that we believe are a guidance system, that are spiritual or sometimes not spiritual, but we believe that they're outside of ourselves. And a lot of what's happening is people are starting to say it's the same thing. You could say it's a guardian angel that made you turn right, or you could say it was my intuition that made me turn right. I just had a woman tell me a story. I love this story. She's been practicing tuning into that still small voice, that inner guidance system, and it's been tough for her. She is a thinker, and she overanalyzes a lot of things. She's very strong intellectually. And yet, so she's been practicing tuning into this still small voice, and it was time for her to go to work, and she was ready to hop in the car, and something told her to finish a project she was working on. She said, no, I don't have time. And she heard, finish the project, and she went over, and she went back to the computer, and she did a little bit more, and then looked up at the clock, and she thought, gosh, if I don't get going, I'm going to be late. I may even be 10 minutes late. I gotta get out of here. And she left, went in her car, and because she was a little bit late, she took a different way that she thought would be a little quicker, and got stopped at a stoplight, and it was raining and pouring, and she looks over and she sees this little 2-year-old in the bushes, hovering down, crying. And
wow.
Yeah. So she gets out of the car and goes over, finds the little girl, and of course the little girl can't tell where she lives or anything. Another woman pulls up, says, I'll stay with your car, you take your phone, I'll do this, we'll call here. And to make a long story short, found the dad and returned the girl home.
Oh.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
That's an absolutely amazing story about, you're listening to your inner voice. And Julie, we're about to take our first break here. So that is just a great segue to go into listening to that inner voice, that mindfulness about what's going on. And, whether it's your inner child that's talking, your inner voice, and like you said, some people think it's the voice of God. I'd like to, as we come back from our break, talk a little bit about paying attention to that voice, because we hear so many people that say, yeah, I'm just, that can't be anything. It can't mean anything. And we second guess our inner voices enough that, as you say, we either overanalyze them or we dismiss them when we should be paying attention to them. So when we come back from break, if it's okay with you, let's just dive into that a little bit more and see how we can share with our audience how to pay attention to that inner voice. And I think what you talked about was doing it through mindfulness. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay, well, everyone, we will be back in just a few minutes. If you'll stick with us, we're more with Dr. Julie Krull.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here tonight with Dr. Julie Krull, and before we get back to some more questions, I'd like to just remind everyone that we do have an open phone line tonight. That number is 248-809-3474, or you can email us a question at simplesteps@me.com. We would welcome any questions you might have for Julie, Cheryl, or myself. Julie, before we left, Cheryl was talking about that inner voice, and some people think that it's mom, some people think that it's God, some people think that it's baby brother or whoever. How do you distinguish it? I mean, because it's really tough sometimes, especially if that person is somebody that you've always looked up to. How do you know?
Yeah, this is a tough one because it is different for everyone. It really is different for everyone, but there's a lot of different ways to learn how to tune into it. So I'm not an expert by any means, but let me just share a few ways of how different people can tune into that voice. Some people really can just simply ask the question and get the first answer out of their mind. And literally, it's just trusting that. When they get the first answer, they trust it. That's the answer. Other people, who are doubters and who dismiss and who question, there's other kinds of techniques that are really helpful that people can learn to develop. One of them that I like is learning how to journal. You go to that quiet place, you go to that heart resonance that we were talking about with the mind being still, and literally you ask the question as you're writing and you allow it to come out on the paper. Some people can use their non-dominant hand to do that so that it really does tap into a different part of the brain. It creates a more whole-brained place, and amazing things can come out that way. Other people will listen to their body, just really tap into their body. One simple way of doing that is you say, okay, do I want to have black or white? And you say black, and you experience what you feel in your body when you say the choice of black. And then you say white, and you feel what you experience in your body when you feel white. If you feel joy or elation or some uplifting, expansive feeling, that's your guidance. If you feel shut down or at any irritable or just a no closing down kind of feeling, that's your guidance. Those are just a few.
I have never quite heard it that way, and that's a really interesting way, because I'm a firm believer that if you are anxious about something, you're going into something, and if I had learned this years ago, I'd be in a much different place, but when your stomach churns and you just feel like you need to, something's not right, if you listen to that feeling that just is not a good feeling, it's a negative feeling, and back away or not rush into something, that's, to me, is my inner voice saying, this isn't the right thing for you. And oftentimes, I know in my past, I just went forward because some big person said, this is the way to go, when if we would just trust our guts or trust that inner place, we'd be in a better place because we'd be listening to our own selves.
Yeah, isn't that true? Someone says, someone may steer us in that direction, and we think we have to follow what their guidance is. And even our own rational thought, we think, well, this doesn't make any sense. We argue with ourselves. It doesn't make any sense. I should go A to B, and I will go directly, and that's how I get there. And you know, our body's saying, no, we want to go the long way and twist and turn around. And, you know, so, yeah, our rational mind sometimes is our biggest enemy.
Yeah, I call that paralysis by analysis, when you have to think through things so much that it just stops you dead. You know.
Yeah.
you get that way when your body's saying one thing and your mind's saying another. So yeah, I totally agree.
Well, and I've heard the concept of spontaneity. It's what comes to your mind, go with it. It's a spontaneous feeling instead of sitting there and analyzing everything. And like Kenny said, you shut yourself down. You go with that spontaneous feeling.
Yeah. You know, right now we're co-creating with the universe, and things are changing so fast around us. And so being in the moment is even more important than, you know, analyzing, waiting till tomorrow. And really what's best for us right now in this moment may not be what's best for us tomorrow or next week or next month. So really, like you said, Cheryl, being spontaneous and learning how to do that, not in, you know, in a self-constructive way, not in a self-destructive way, because we're following the positive hunches and the positive direction and you know, the universe guiding us.
Yeah. Now I think you'll agree with me, and I just want to point out here, this is not about being right and wrong. This is about finding what works and what doesn't work. I think is what I hear you saying.
Yeah, really, what is right and wrong? Yeah, I agree with Kenny. Yes, this is about learning how to trust your intuition and your own internal guidance, and really following the path that's presenting in the moment. And, you know, it sometimes isn't logical, sequential, and it doesn't make sense, but it is. It's not right or wrong. It's just really tuning in and learning how really to follow our own divinity and what we're called here to do. And, you know, I like to say this. Someone wise and wonderful said this to me one time. If you are here created for a specific purpose, you cannot fail. The universe or God or spirit or whatever you want to say, if you contracted with God or spirit or universe to come here to do something, you cannot fail. You cannot fail. Isn't that amazing? I love that thought.
So true.
Yeah, so follow the guidance that's in alignment with your calling. And I think that's it too, Kenny. It's right or wrong, good or bad. It's about really following our own individual guidance of what we're really here for.
Yeah, the worst thing that can happen is you figure out one way that didn't work.
Yeah.
It's I try to teach everybody, just drop the judgments. Quit judging yourself and just let it happen.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, the judgments don't do anything. You've talked a whole lot about change, and earlier when we talked to you before the show started, you tied the change in with evolution. Can you talk a little more about that?
Oh, I'd love to. You know, with you know, people are really noticing all the changes in the world right now, and the weather patterns, and the, you know, big institutions that are crumbling, and, you know, there's so much change. And I like to teach that when we think about evolution, and historically for thousands of years on our planet, from single-cell organisms to plants to animals to humans to whole civilizations, we have in recorded history that when something is evolving, it really takes a leap from the breakdown to the breakthrough. It literally leaps. You know, we talk about evolutionary leaps. It doesn't happen in small steps. But what we also have recorded in history is that those organisms that really dig in their feet and dig in their heels and say, I don't want to change, it used to work the way it used to work, and I want to do it that way. But when we look at organisms and civilizations who have refused to move forward, will literally become extinct. And so this process that's happening right now is happening in our world, there's so many things that are ready to leap forward, and we have no idea what that is. We're not aware of what's coming, but we all have this niggling inside that we're feeling it. We're feeling the shifts in energy. We're feeling this new feminine thing happening with our energies and balancing out the masculine feminine. We're feeling, more concern and care for the earth as our Mother Earth and nature and natural processes and, going organic. And, we're feeling all of these things. And the exciting and beautiful thing is that we can do this consciously now. We are making a choice, and we can go with the change in a positive direction, and we can do it awake and conscious and aware that it's happening. And how exciting is that?
Yeah, that's incredible. I was thinking back about a time that I was going through some changes and fighting it, because it's like, nope, everything's fine, I don't need to change. And I was spending so much energy fighting it and so much emotions fighting it that it would have been simpler just to change, because it changed anyway.
Yeah. Whether you want it to or not, yes.
Yeah. I couldn't stop it, but I spent all energy trying to. Excuse me, how does the evolution focus tie into the conscious living and mindfulness that you spoke of earlier?
Well, I, of course, mindful living, conscious evolution, this whole practice of tuning into where we're at in the moment gives us all of these opportunities to see where we're going. And what do I mean by that? That sounds kind of chaotic. But really, when you think about if we're in the past and we're worrying about the past, or we're thinking about the past, or we're fighting a future change that we don't want, or we're fighting a fear of things that we think are going to happen, it's taking all of our energy out of being conscious. We're not aware in the present moment, where some people call it sleepwalking, some people call it on autopilot or cruise control. We're going through life on cruise control, not aware of what's going on in the moment. We're sitting there with old habits and literally really putting ourselves at risk of what you just said, fighting a change, and we really don't need to. We can really go joyfully into what's next when we learn how to be in the present moment.
Well, and we find ourselves on cruise control, and then the next thing we do, we wake up and go, where'd this time go? Or I lost this opportunity, or I missed an opportunity because I was literally on autopilot and running in the gerbil wheel. Maybe that's the best way to put it. You're just running and running and running, but you're not getting anywhere. And then you realize you've lost the opportunity. And then people will go, well, if I'd just done that in the past, I'd be in a different place now. So then you find yourself beating yourself up for what you didn't do, when the truth is, if we just take ourselves back to where we are at this given moment, you start from right here, regardless of what's happened in the past. You can move forward, and you can go with that flow, that inner voice that you've been talking about before.
Yeah, and drop the judgments, like Kenny said. There's no need for judgment. It's totally about tuning into the present. And really, all that guidance will be right there again. Yeah, things might have been different. I could have saved myself 10 years of da-da-da, but really, everything is right here, right now, and that's all that matters. And just like that woman driving to work, if she would have been on cruise control and did her regular habits and left at the right time and went the same way, she never would have found that little girl. So being present, all of that guidance and all of those opportunities are right here, right now, in the present. Just, like you said, drop it. Don't go into judging it or analyzing it.
Well, and you just brought up an interesting point. So I guess I want to tie this back. As I see a lot of things like her finding this little child. There are some synchronicities that happen in life that happen because we're listening to our voice or just being aware of them. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. Really, I love the language of Barbara Marx Hubbard has been talking evolution for, her 30, 40, 50-year career here. She's 82 now, the grandmother of evolution. But she talks about really, I love this language, co-creating with the universe. Isn't that beautiful? And when you think about that you are in co-creation, so I like to talk about, can I sidetrack just for a second to answer this?
Sure.
I like to talk about, moving from our ego mentality, our ego consciousness, to this essence that we're talking about. So, for thousands of years, man thought they were superior to animals and plants and the earth, but inferior to God. And we created this illusion of this separate self. This separate self created this illusion, and then we got really good at comparing and contrasting to other humans. Like, well, if I'm separate from God and humans and the earth, and we're separate from each other, so I'm either better or I'm worse, or I'm good or I'm bad, and we're going to Kenny's judgments, things that he wants to drop. We're judging. We're in ego, so we're really good at comparing and contrasting. But as we drop this ego mentality, the separate self mentality, we move into a universal self, and we understand that we are connected. We are connected to each other. We are connected to the earth. We are connected to this creator. And so I go back to that co-creator language. I love that. When we're in co-creation, really the universe is conspiring to continue to expand and do amazing things in our lives. And when we are in tune with that, all the cues are there, all the guidance is there, all the opportunities are synchronistic, and amazing things unfold in our lives. Just amazing things. We can't even explain it. And yet when we're not... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it seems like when you're in that place that you find yourself in a place of no lack, only abundance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Where does lack come from? Lack comes from the ego mentality that says, I'm separate, so I don't have enough. But the essence, the whole self mentality is we're all connected, and there's always enough. And you're right, Kenny, we go into an abundance mentality. And if you really think about it, this ego mentality versus this essence that we're talking about, our separate self mentality versus whole self mentality, all of those feelings that we've struggled with as a humanity for so many years, the negative that we used to call negative, and then we went through this phase of feel them all. It's okay to feel them, even when you're angry. Really, we don't have to go there when we shift our perception of ourselves, and we can go into that place of inner peace and guidance. Really, there's so much less anxiety, there's so much less frustration, less anger, everything, because when you're coming from that whole self essence of who we really are, everything makes so much more sense. And you're right, abundance.
Yeah, it certainly changes your perception.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
Well, and it ties back to what you were talking about earlier about, the heart mindfulness and working from the heart. And I know that the link is to Heart Math. For those of you that are listening in, if you go up to Simple Steps World Change, I actually have posted up the link that will take you to the heart meditation that Julie's talking about, because you are then, as you're doing this meditation, you are making those connections by coming through it internally.
Yes. Yes. And so when you're in that place, also remember the three main feelings that I shared was joy, peace, love. When we're in that place, there really is no impatience, frustration, lack, want, need, all of those things. But when we go there and we follow it and the ego starts saying, oh, I'm not good enough, I'll never fit in, I'll never make enough, when we go there, it takes us totally out of that heart coherence, and we're back into this stuck place in our mind.
Yeah. That's incredible stuff. Just for people like myself who are just addicted to traditional meditation, Does this heart math take the place of that, or is it something in addition to?
Yeah, absolutely not. It doesn't have to take the place of traditional meditation. Traditional meditation is wonderful, and people who practice it get the same benefits. This technique is an adjunct to that can complement it for seasoned meditators, where at any moment you go into a meeting, you do a quick connection so that you're in quick coherence before you go into that meeting. Or, you're at a stop sign and you feel yourself getting impatient, you just focus back on the heart and you're back there. So it really complements a meditation practice. And it also is, for those who can't seem to achieve the goals they want with meditation, this is a good starting point, because at least they're getting little glimpses of that inner peace, and they know they can attain it instead of trying to think about it and try to shut our minds off and to do, I'm not doing it right, there's something wrong. They're getting a glimpse of it, and it opens them to a meditation practice. So,
well, and I did, after you had told us about it this morning when we were talking about it, I obviously went straight to the website and went, okay. And there is actually a little clip, audio clip that you can listen to that will walk you through this. And I found myself sitting here because I had a little bit of stress and going, okay, I'm just going to listen to this. What a night and day difference in just 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And what a wonderful way to start. And I'm one of those folks that is just getting into a meditative process. Quieting my mind has never been the easiest thing in the world for me to do, but I found, you're right, that this is a wonderful way to start. It's a wonderful compliment. And I like the idea of doing it when I'm sitting in traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Or at the doctor's office, in the waiting room, or I've taught meditation for 20 years and have done it from many different perspectives and tried to, teach. And they're all mental techniques. It's like, okay, there's three forms. You're either going to create a vacuum where you're thinking nothing. You're going to observe the mind as it's doing its thing, but don't attach. And people have a hard time with that. Or you're going to concentrate and focus on something as everything else falls away. But all of them are real mental techniques. And this heart focusing automatically quiets the mind without you even trying. It's kind of like when I first learned to teach people how to breathe by exhaling first with a great big sigh and emptying their lungs. It's like you don't have to teach people how to breathe deeply when you teach them how to exhale fully, because all they want to do is naturally take a deep breath. And for years before that, I taught them how to take a deep breath, So it's just, it's so delightful to just focus on the heart and watch the mind just melt and come into coherence with it.
Wow, that's incredible, and it's wonderful practice. We are coming to the end of the show, and before we do, I'd love for you to tell people how to get in touch with you so they can learn everything that you can offer them.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'd love to. Well, the primary contact would be they could look up my website, which is www.juliekrull.com, JuliekRull.com. Like Cheryl mentioned, I'm on Facebook at Dr. Julie on Your Beautiful Mindful Life. And really, the website will give more current programs and, the coaching opportunities, the different things going on. I'm going to be starting a new program coming up here in, I think, 3 weeks on igniting the universal spiritual intelligence. So that's on there, some more information about that. And every so often I have just little blurbs that they can go and download some kind of an information or do whatever, or get on our mailing list. So primary would be www.juliekrull.com.
Well, Julie, I appreciate you doing this. And, I know Kenny and I are both so grateful that you agreed to spend your Tuesday evening with us. I have learned so much just from talking to you in this last hour and this morning. So I hope you know how much we appreciate you being here.
Oh, well, thank you. I love you guys. You are amazing, and I just so resonate with everything you post on Simple Steps, and I just really appreciate this opportunity, and hopefully just this opportunity to share a little bit with your listeners, too.
Well, and we hope to have you back again and, just to share some more of your wisdom.
Well, thank you. I'd love it.
Yeah, I've certainly enjoyed getting to know you. This has been wonderful. We wanted to just let everybody know before we do leave for the night that next week we have the wonderful Heather St. Louis from Optimistic Inc. Cheryl and I had the opportunity to chat with her a little before, I guess it was about a week or so ago, and she is just lovely. She is just a wonderful lady, and we look so forward to having her here. So if you want to just find out a little bit about how to add optimism to your life, her story is amazing, and it's incredible, and we look forward to having her here. Cheryl, do you have any last words you'd like to say before we go?
Well, I guess the last thing that I'd say to folks is if you have learned nothing else from this evening, Julie's focus on being mindful and living in the moment right now makes a night and day difference in just our state of mind and our peacefulness. So I've learned so much from Julie. I hope that you will all check out her website, and we're going to have her back again because I know she's helping me, so I am sure she is helping other folks out there again.
Well, thank you, Julie, and thank you, Cheryl. It is time for us to go, and we hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us.